And then you recognize our friend Ken Rosenfeld from the prestigious Rosenfeld law firm. Hi, Ken.
Morning, Paul.
We get a lawyer's take on interesting news stories. So we had a couple of seniors at Roosevelt High School set fire to the stage the day before graduation, $100,000 in damage, burned the field. One's 18, one's 17. I'm assuming that makes a difference.
Makes a huge difference in a case like this. The 18-year-old is a legal adult. The 17-year-old, legally by definition, is a child. So they are not in the same situation. It's quite disproportionate what will happen between the two. One will be through juvenile court, the other will go through adult court. Nobody was hurt here, so
Right.
This is not an offense that generally can be elevated to adult court, even though they're a juvenile. So this is a prank that went obviously terribly wrong.
Stupid. Parents can end up paying. I mean, this is going to come out of somebody's
yes,
side, right?
The parents of the 17-year-old. The 18-year-old is probably a harder argument because he's a legal adult. But as a 17-year-old, the parents are the legal guardians of the 17-year-old, and they can be civilly liable. But it can get complicated, and I need more information. But these are just general answers.
I don't know why I would think you would know this. Does my homeowner's insurance pay for my kid doing something crazy stupid at the high school?
Every policy is different, but there are some policies that do cover liability in that situation. But every policy is different.
Okay. The awful, tragic story. Aquilyn Talamantes convicted of drowning her child, putting her in the trunk of the car, and then caught. After conviction, they appealed and said, no, she's insane. She cannot, because she's insane, she has to be in a mental institution and not a prison. And they said, no, you're sane. What's the legal deal there? Because clearly you're insane if you do that to your child.
Well, there's a legal definition of insane, and then there's a common sense definition of anybody who looks at that circumstance. Nobody normal can do that. But the legal standard for insanity is so high, Paul. And I don't have the exact statistics, but I would state that less than 2% of the time that it's used is it effective, and that a jury finds the person to be legally insane. So to get to that standard legally, you have to show that you have no understanding between right and wrong. The mere fact that you're able to put the plan together, to put the child in the vehicle, and then to have a plan to put the vehicle in motion to move it somewhere else, shows that you have cognitive thought ability, which shows that you know the difference between right and wrong to some degree. So that alone is a terrible fact to go with the insanity defense. When you see insane people, you know it. I mean, walk down K Street at night and you'll see people that are legally insane without question. But somebody who had that cognitive thought process, hard argument.
Interesting. Okay, let's touch on one quickly here at the end. There was a Supreme Court decision, Florida case. You could not execute someone who was had an IQ below 70. A man had an IQ of 71.
Right.
And he, if there's a death penalty, he deserved it. I mean, for what he did.
Sure.
Abducted a pregnant woman, murdered her, killed the sheriff's deputy. What did the Supreme Court decide in this case?
The Supreme Court made the right decision here. And what the Supreme Court said is that there can't be a bright line rule of a number that makes you legally unable to be executed because of IQ reasons. An IQ test is subjective to some degree, depending on who the examiner is,
it can be different day to day,
how they're scoring it, and it could be different hour to hour, depending on how much medication the person is on. If I was a defense attorney and I had somebody that was in that situation, I would talk to their medical doctor, their psychiatrist, have all the medication that can be legally prescribed given to the person to make them, quote, as dumb as possible for taking that test so that their score is as low as possible. It has the power to be manipulated. These are people's lives we're talking about in an execution. It shouldn't be standardized in the sense that an attorney can manipulate the exam. If there's going to be a standard, it can't be a bright line number, because what happens if you're 70.111? Does that mean you're good to go? Or 69.9, do you round up? I mean, we're talking about people's lives. This isn't just a minor transaction here.
Okay, so in the future,
they made the right call.
In the same way someone is evaluated for whether they are sane or not, we also have to evaluate individually, is this person intelligent enough? Could they have known? Did they have the mental capacity?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And I think in our society right now, there's been a highlight of mental health and mental health issues, especially with young people. And I'm glad that we're having this discussion, because mental health issues are so significant and so many people are suffering from it that have been in the dark for so long that at least now as a society, we're starting to get an understanding that some of these people really aren't crooks or criminals or bad people. They're just mentally ill and they need help, and we're not addressing it enough. Good
conversation, Ken. Thank you very much. As always, sir, we appreciate it. Back to you, Sabrina.
7:22. If you have a question for Ken Rosenfeld, just send us an email to morning@fox40.com.